oil comes out quicker than we can suck, so we kind of have to stop the flow.
Oh, really?
A little bit. Otherwise it'll overflow. Our little tray.
Now, if you didn't have this handy dandy machine that sucks it out,
You can go through the dipstick.
you go through the dipstick and
Yeah, you can suck out. Here's your oil.
Looks kind of thick, doesn't it?
Looks black.
Yeah.
Usually this gets.
When you have an oil leak, where are the like 3 main places the oil would most likely be coming from?
Well, probably the drain plug, the oil pan gasket where the oil pan attaches to the engine, or probably like your valve cover gasket. Okay, so now we're going to change the oil filter. Since this,
And that's the primary oil filter.
you just have one oil filter.
Just one oil
Yeah.
filter.
So we're going to change the oil filter, and since this is kind of messy down here, we're going to clean it up anyways. We're just going to let it drip down there and clean up. Normally we'd put something underneath here.
So that little tool you used is kind of necessary for
That's the oil
taking
filter
that oil
wrench.
filter off. Yeah, oil filter wrench. Great. What's next? We got that.
Okay, so now we're going to change the fuel filter. So we have 2 fuel filters. We got a primary over here, and then we got a secondary. So what we're going to do is we shut the fuel off to the tank,
Yeah.
and now we're going to remove the primary fuel filter with our filter wrench here.
Great. So shutting that fuel tank, shutting that valve off on the fuel tank is pretty important when you change the fuel filters, isn't it?
Yeah, otherwise the tank will siphon through the thing if it's lower than the fuel tank.
Everybody should know where that valve is on
Yeah.
the fuel tank.
Our secondary fuel filter. So on the secondary fuel filter, we're going to just put a little bit of oil or diesel, something to just lubricate the ring.
You can use diesel as well.
You can use diesel or grease. We have a little oil, obviously, from the bucket. We put these on dry. We don't fill these up because we're going to bleed the engine. So we just put it on.
And that just kind of screws on there. You don't need that tool.
No, just screw it on. Basically hand tight.
So that filter is dry. There's nothing in it at this point.
There's nothing in it right now.
It's just a filter. And once the...
So your secondary filter, you never want to fill up with diesel. Because if there's any contaminants in your can or anything like that,
Oh, I see.
then it can,
Okay. So it's just
it'll go unfiltered into your whole system.
I see. So that's the secondary filter.
That's the secondary.
The primary filter is under the cabinet
Yeah,
there
so
behind it. Yeah, you really don't want any kind of dirt in your fuel, do you?
No.
Okay, this is my primary filter over here, and John's going to go ahead and change that as well.
So we're going to put a little pad under here, just in case it drips a little bit.
Okay.
My hand.
And it's always counterclockwise, just
Yeah,
like...
lefty loosey, righty tighty.
Yep, same thing with the filter.
So you might get a little fuel dripping, but the fuel is still shut off.
Right. So there is the fuel filter.
We're going to dump this in our...
Now, can you tell by looking at it if it's...
usually we're checking for water or particles.
If there
There's
was
nothing
water,
really...
if there was
No.
water, would it settle to the bottom?
Water will settle to the bottom, you should see it.
Yeah.
Here it's separated like vinegar and oil.
Uh-huh.
We don't see anything, so we're going to dump it. Yeah, it looks pretty clean.
Great.
Right? And then this one, we just unscrew this.
So that's part of the filter there that you're
So
unscrewing.
this is the actual filter.
Oh, that's the actual filter.
The bowl that we just had was just like a collection bowl. And that helps separate the water. So this would trap all your...
I see. So
main
that filter
contaminants.
pops right off of that little stem there.
And this is hard to kind of see, but I don't see anything black or hanging out of here, so it's probably pretty good.
Good.
pump.
Sean, what's that little screw there on the bottom of the filter for?
What's that?
That little screw there. What's
This?
that for? That, yeah.
So now this is to drain, since this bowl, since water's heavier, if you did have water in here, this is just a valve. You can open it up and drain the water out.
Oh, how nice to
Or
know.
if you wanted to just sample what's in the bowl,
I see.
you could just
Just make sure you put it
pour it back.
nice and tight when you're done doing that. So you don't have it dripping all over.
So we're just going to kind of clean everything up.
Uh-huh.
Make sure it's nice and clean.
Well, I love to come here because a lot of times you catch other problems that I
Yeah.
wouldn't catch, and it just gives me a lot of confidence when I leave here knowing that everything's in ship shape.
So what we're going to do is we're going to just put a little grease on this O-ring. So
Mhm.
it's nice and supple.
Back on there.
There's the O-ring back. And we're going to take the filter.
Stick it on.
There's a little thing on here that says top. So this is the top.
That's good to know. Mm-hmm. And you hear that little snap, you know it's in there, right?
See it there? And just put a little in there. And this is going to just screw back in here.
And you just screw that on clockwise.
Yeah. Come on.
Oh, this is great. You don't want to over-tighten that.
Don't over tighten that. It's
Okay.
all plastic pieces. So
You don't want to break anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
the oil filter, we're going to take just a little bit of the oil we have around here. Just put it. This is fine to be like used motor oil. It doesn't have to be brand new clean motor oil. We're just basically getting the
Lubricating.
gasket wet.
Yeah.
Then we're going to just clean the housing here. Make sure there's not the old gasket or any rust or anything. We're going to just spin the new one.
Right on there.
This one we're going to go hand tight and then just a quarter turn with the filter wrench.
So hand tighten and a quarter turn back?
Yeah, and then
Okay.
no, quarter turn more.
Oh, okay. Hand
Yeah.
tighten and a quarter turn more. Got
Right.
it. Great.
Now we're going to reassemble. Now you can fill up the primary filter, but because we're going to bleed the whole system, we'll just leave it dry.
Okay. So normally, if you weren't going to bleed the whole system, you would fill that up with fuel and then put it on?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the primary filter, as long as you have a filter after end, it's fine to fill with diesel.
Okay.
And once again,
So if
just
you...
hand tight.
Okay, great.
Okay. Clean up our little mess here.
Oh, so we get to learn about bleeding the system today, too.
Yeah, we're going to learn it.
So what John told me to do is follow the valve here. This is the fuel valve right here. So I followed it all the way back, and I was able to find it. And then he had me turn it all the way until I couldn't turn it anymore, and then come back a quarter turn. So, ladies, make sure you know how to turn off your fuel. I thought, now we're gonna bleed the engine.
Okay, so on this engine we have an electric fuel pump. So when we turn the key on, the pump's going to pump. Here's your injection pump, and right here is your bleeder screw.
Right.
So we're going to put a little pad under there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to open this up.
And everybody should know where that bleeder valve is.
On the
it's
universals, they're all right here. On the Yanmars, they're in a little different spot in there. It's a 10 millimeter.
What I do is I painted that with some fingernail
Feeling
polish.
it, yeah. It's come
So
off,
it's
but
easy to find.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to repaint that. Everyone should know where that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just unscrewed that a little bit.
A little bit, and then we're going to have Susie turn the key on.
Okay.
It's not
Oh, it hasn't
All
yet.
right,
Okay.
go ahead and turn it on. So we're going to turn it on.
So we unscrewed that little valve and
So
we're
we've got the
turning
bleeder valve, so
key on, not starting the engine.
just stand over there by it.
By turning that key,
Fuel,
It's
you've
just
activated the
pumping.
fuel pump.
yeah, filling up that
Okay,
fuel.
now come back over here. Just watch, this might spit a little bit, so don't
Okay.
get your camera too close. So when it starts to spit, we're going to shut this off, and we're going to have Alex turn the key off. A lot of times you can hear. Okay, that's it. Shut it off.
So you turn the nut and then the little nut on the end of that nut, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Just going to tighten this back a little bit and just not super tight. This is just a little, just easy.
So you don't want it too tight.
So yeah, nothing over tight.
Once you bleed it, okay,
Yeah.
great. And what is the purpose for bleeding everything?
Is to get all the air out of the system.
Right. If you have air in the system, then
It won't run. You'll die.
problems. Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to add oil.
All right.
We're putting 1540 in here, right?
Yes, 1540 Rotella.
We're putting Dello.
Oh, Dello, okay.
John Ross likes Rotella.
Yeah, he likes Rotella.
John Van Dixon likes Dello. Let's see if we can.
My tank holds about a gallon of oil.
We're going to track down oil leak.
I've got an oil leak somewhere.
Oh, you know
And we're
what?
checking right now. Look at that. Huh.
Now, okay, one problem, if this dipstick isn't all the way in,
It could spew out oil.
it could spew out oil.
I always stick it all in there.
Trust in that.
Well, if you ever have to change your oil filter or your fuel filters or bleed your lines, I hope this little visit with John at the fuel dock helps you out like it has me. Happy sailing!